Hi, I'm Jane, and together with Jodes, we are two proud feminists passionate about female empowerment. This podcast is our take on the real conversations, real issues, and real challenges we must stay focused on if we're going to inspire the next generation of female leaders, managers, and entrepreneurs to pick up the baton and continue the journey to equality. But be warned, there will be rants and the odd profanity, but mainly just lots of curious conversations, uplifting stories, great guests, and food for thought on the path we still have to travel. It is clear that our young girls need us to harness our gumption and to use our voices now to make the changes we all know need to happen. It's time to be a pioneer, not a passenger. To paraphrase the famous words of a female game changer, Hollywood's iconic Bette Davis, fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the podcast. This week we are on Series 2, Episode 3. Episode 3 already. Can you believe it? In our second series. Just as a quick reminder that this series is all about the system and the system being biased. And today we're specifically going to be talking about the justice system within that. So I'm going to kick us off, Jane, today with some statistics.
Okay, stand by your bed.
We love a good statistic.
Yeah,
to get us riled up. And it does come with a little bit of a health warning. Some of these statistics might make you a little bit twitchy, might make you a little bit shifty in your seat, to be honest, because they certainly did with us. And actually, they're not a surprise to us because the statistics. Oh, that's
the first time you've said that, and I'm very impressed.
Statistics, the ones that we kind of work with every day.
Yeah, but you need to get twitchy about them, as far as I'm concerned.
Twitchy. For sure.
Start twitching.
So let's start with a bit of a big hitter, actually. I don't know whether people will even know something like this, but two women women a week are murdered by a partner or an ex-partner. Can you believe that? 2 a week. And actually, many of those women are in the process of fleeing from an abusive relationship. It's not while they're in the relationship. Quite often it is the ex-partner. We were chatting earlier, weren't we? I think last night I caught up on the Raoul Moat programme that's been remade after that case. And that was a clear example of that, where he went after his ex-partner and her new guy that she was in a relationship with and blew him apart with a sawn-off shotgun. So, there you go.
Yeah.
1 in 4 women are sexually assaulted on a night out. And I don't know, I've got all the examples today, whether you came across a documentary, actually. It was a Channel 4 documentary that was on, I think it was around Christmas time.
Ellie.
Yeah, December. She was called Ellie Flynn. Ellie Flynn was the journalist who went out and did a bit of an experiment, really. She had a night out in Liverpool and a night out in London, where she kind of posed as a girl on her own, a bit under the influence of some alcohol, to see what interest that drew from prospective predators. And she got quite a bit.
They were stalking her, weren't they? They were literally watching her and then going, yeah, she's going to be easy.
Do you know what really gobsmacked me about that whole thing? There weren't just individual guys on the off chance that thought, I could be in there. There were groups of 2 and 3 men very strategically set up around the vicinity.
Got a plan.
Kind of sending messages to each other saying, right, eyes on, got one. You head up the back alley there, I'll do this.
Yeah.
Really, really scary, really frightening. Yeah,
Oof.
Definitely. So 1 in 4 sexually assaulted on a night out. Same statistic, 1 in 4 will experience domestic abuse in their lifetime. So that's 25%.
That's also one of us. One of us will experience domestic abuse in our lifetime.
Yeah, that's a bit shocking, really, isn't it? And on that basis, apparently every 30 seconds there is a domestic abuse call made to the police. Every 30 seconds. But that said, less than 24% of domestic abuse crime is even reported. So I think I did a quick maths calculation on that if 100% of those were reported, then we'd get a call every 7.5 seconds, not every 30 seconds.
And you've got to think, haven't you, we were talking about this, what's going on in those police stations when those calls are coming in?
Yeah.
I mean, are they just going, another one, John?
Yeah.
Another one?
Oh,
yeah.
She's back on again.
Yeah. I think he's throwing her down the stairs this time.
Yeah.
I mean...
Well, we'll talk about that in a bit, around how things have potentially normalised. But let's talk about the rape statistics. These are very scary indeed. Did you know that 95% of rapes are not even reported? So that leaves just 5% that are. And then of that 5%, only 20% of those go to court. And they only result in a 1% conviction rate. So just... that took us a little bit of a while, so we had to keep going, hang on a minute. That many of this and that many of this.
Yeah,
so
we had to get up in the numbers to get any kind of stat, didn't we?
But basically, in a nutshell, if you worked with a figure of 10,000 rapes that took place, I know that's not a very nice thing to think about, but that's the number of rapes that would need to take place for the statistics to work out in one single conviction. Just one. So that blew my mind. 10,000 rapes would mean 500 cases would get reported, 100 of those would go to court, and only one conviction.
That's just scary, isn't it?
It is. It's scary.
And when we talk about this, only 20% of them actually get to court. That's nothing to do with, the actual victim. That's to do with the CPS making a decision about whether that victim will be able to withstand cross-examination in court.
Yeah.
And so if she's a bit vulnerable, which, hey,
Guess
she's
what?
going to be.
No shit.
They're going to go, she's not going to stand up. We won't go to court on that one.
If she doesn't feel like a reliable witness, then let's not take the risk, guys. Let's not take the risk.
So, as you know, we're also very passionate about young girls on this podcast as well, because we're both very active in Girls Out Loud. So let's just think about, okay, we can say, well, that's women, isn't it? That's women. But let's talk about what's happening to girls in schools, because if you think that this isn't happening to them too, then you need to wake up. Okay, so
smell the coffee.
This might be a wake-up call for many of you. So currently, 1 in 3 girls are sexually assaulted in school every day.
I couldn't get my head around that.
Every day. So this is like unwanted touching. So I'll ping your bra, I'll smack you on your bum, I'll lift your skirt and ping your tongue,
grab
I'll
your boob,
touch your boobs, I'll back you into a corner and give you a good grope.
I'll stick my boner in your leg.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
Sorry,
got a lovely picture in my head on that one. So 1 in 3. On top of that, there is 1 rape that happens and that is reported to the police every day in the UK, and that's the only one that's reported. Now, if we extrapolated that figure on the same basis that we looked at 95% not being reported in the adult sphere, then that would potentially be 20 rapes
every day
that
take place on school premises. We're not talking about after school, in the evenings, at the weekends.
On school premises.
Like at first I was like, that can't be. That cannot possibly be.
Yeah, it's very scary.
It is very scary.
So then let's kind of like there's an elephant in the room here, isn't there? So in the past year, we have had case after case after case after case of this behaviour happening within the police force. So, not just, these dreadful acts of mistreatment and violence against women and girls being reported to the police, but the police actually being the perpetrators of that behaviour. And I think that has left us all reeling, that the very organisation that is supposed to be there to protect us,
safe,
to keep us safe, is actually abusing us and, and being violent towards us and sexually assaulting us. I mean, how can that be?
Yeah. And I just want to linking this back to one of our very first episodes. I think it was episode 2 of series 1 where we were saying, do we feel safe? And I remember saying, I don't feel safe to go out, especially in the dark or at night. I won't walk the dog on my own.
Yeah.
So then when you put in this context, I'm not subjected to any of this. Touch wood, none of this has happened to me.
But you're aware of it, aren't you?
Well, yeah, I've been sexually assaulted a fair number of times, but we'll come on to that later because I thought that was just normal and that's how things went.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that I especially don't feel safe that the police are going to come and help me.
No,
so I certainly aren't going out on my own now.
No. And I think the other thing is as well that it's the victim that's on trial in all of these cases. You know, if you're saying I've been raped, if you're saying that man mistreated me or harassed me or trolled me or stalked me or, he did this to me, then it's you that's put on trial. You've got to prove your innocence rather than the system proving his guilt.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's all the situation, this commentary that goes on all the time. Well, you're out on your own. Well, why did you get in that taxi on your own, love?
And you went out. What did you go out dressed like that?
Yeah, did you wear that? Were you wearing what you've got on?
Because you were clearly asking for it. If you had a low cut top on or a short skirt,
and were you a bit merry? Are you sure you've got all the facts right?
Yeah. Why did you walk off from your mates? Why did your mates leave you?
Why didn't you just stay with them? And did you not keep your thumb over your bottle? Were you not aware? Have you not been sort of like taking care?
Why did you walk through a dark park? Why didn't you stay on the main road under the street lights?
Yeah, so it's like all these questions. And then if you do get to court, it's like, oh, your phone history is it's a bit racy.
Oh yeah, you've got a few good hits on Tinder there, love, haven't you? You've been putting yourself about a bit.
I can see a few like a bit saucy conversations here. So, obviously,
you've got a bit of history, you've got, Yeah.
So all of this commentary goes on. And what we saw with the Sarah Everard case that we all talk about all the time as being a landmark case. Well, it might be a landmark case, but it hasn't been a landmark shift in the resources that are going into this, or in our attitude towards it, or in the police's attitude towards it. That, one of the reasons why Sarah Everard was such a big case is because she was the perfect victim.
Yeah.
So all these things we're just talking about, she didn't do. So on the same day that Sarah Everard was murdered, I think there were 2 or 3 other women murdered as well.
Yeah.
They didn't even make the news. Never mind a headline, they didn't make the news. And the reason for that is Sarah Everard is a perfect victim. And what I mean by that is she's middle class, white, well educated, was wearing nothing, that could be considered promiscuous. She was like, had hat and scarf, full coat, boots, and she was just trying to get home. Well, these other women might have been trying to get home as well, but they might have been black and maybe didn't come from a nice area.
Or they sat on a park bench for a bit. So what you're doing, what you're waiting for, sitting on a park bench?
Yeah. So we have to be mindful of that.
Yeah.
We have to be mindful of that. So 50% of women and 75% of girls do not feel comfortable or able to report sexual harassment.
Now that's
how sad. Do not feel comfortable or able to report sexual harassment. So not comfortable and not able are 2 quite different things. Not comfortable means they don't think they're going to be believed.
And that's because they're not in a lot of cases, especially when you've got to prove that you were the victim.
Absolutely.
You're under the microscope, right? So immediately you are not believed.
Yeah. Or not able to, because they're scared.
Yeah, because there are repercussions to doing that.
Absolutely.
There are consequences if you speak up.
The majority of women that are in a domestic violent relationship, it's when they leave that they're murdered.
Yeah.
So they've made that decision. They've been really brave, and they've gone, right, I'm off. I can't take this anymore. And that's when he loses it.
Yeah.
And he murders them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's no wonder that they stay, is it?
No. Because what are your options?
We talk about, well, why doesn't she leave him? All the time, and we just don't
have
said than done, any understanding of what's going on there. So, final story. As you know, I work with girls in schools all the time, and just to give you an idea of how much we've normalised this behaviour, how much we expect boys and men to be violent towards us, to be coercive, to take control. Working with a group of girls, I think it was last year, and a boy walked into the room that I was in. There was myself and another coach and about 8 or 9 girls, and we were on an intervention. And he didn't knock, he didn't say excuse me, he just barged in. And I obviously naturally went, excuse me, we're running a session here. And he told me to let off. Then he walked through the rooms. He said, I'm going to the loo, and the loo's over there, and this is the quick route. Oh, right. Well, that makes all perfect sense, doesn't it, really? So off he goes to the loo, and he came back in the same way and did exactly the same thing. Only this time, he recognised one of the girls in the room. And he went, oh, Charlotte, what are you doing in here? Have you been naughty? And Charlotte went, oh, get lost, Darren, as they do. And he literally turned round, stopped in his tracks, and he karate kicked her off the chair. In front of me.
That's shocking.
And another coach. He wasn't a bit concerned about any consequences.
No. Probably thought it was funny.
Yeah.
Had a little chuckle to himself.
Absolutely.
Thought he was Billy Big Balls.
Yeah, so she's on the floor, like trying not to cry, trying to be cool about it.
Trying to act like it's no big deal, probably.
Yeah. He walks out. So I said to my coach, you go and get him and report him. I picked the girl up and asked if she was okay and did she want to go to see the nurse and so on. So I took her to the nurse. And as I'm taking her to the nurse, she said to me, are you going to report him, miss? And I went, oh, yeah. And she said, well, there's no point. Well, what do you mean there's no point? Well, that's how boys behave in the school. Nothing will happen.
No one's going to do anything about it.
I mean, how sad is that? So at that age, 12, 13, she'd already worked out that is how boys behave.
Yeah, it's learned behaviour, innit?
And she needs to just accept that.
Yeah.
Because nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
And obviously she might have reported that before, or her mates might have reported that before, but nothing happened. So we've normalised it at a very young age that women will be on the other end of violence all our lives.
Yeah.
That will happen to some of us, all of us, most of us. And we just have to accept it. We might have seen our mum and dad behaving that way. We're certainly seeing it on soap operas.
Yeah.
And once something's on every soap, it's normalised. And that's not a good thing because the soaps will say, oh, we're raising awareness of it. No, you're not. You're normalising it.
And that's go back to the point that I mentioned at the beginning around, I probably experienced quite a fair bit of sexual harassment, but because of that normalisation in my teens, do you know what? I saw it. Right, so brace yourselves. I saw it at that age. I saw it as a good thing
because it meant you were important. You had some kind of.
I was obviously like desirable. And, people were interested in me.
They were showing you that you were desirable.
Yeah, didn't like it, but it's what you did, isn't it? And so never thought anything of it until I probably was way into my 30s before I thought, hang on. That's not all right. It's not all right.
Yeah.
I'd have men follow me into the toilet, come into the cubicle, shut the door and pin me up against the side of the door and snog me face off.
We went work at the time or school. Was it work or school?
So, no, that one would have been like on a night out with my friends.
Okay.
Yeah, but in work, used to get all kinds of comments.
Yeah. I remember a bit of that at school. I remember the boys that were the it boys chasing the girls at lunchtime that they wanted to have a snog with or feel them up, just getting them in a corner. We never did anything about it. We were terrified. It was like, but I just think it's like it's gone. It's ramped up big time now.
Yeah.
It's not seen as banter. It's not like, a little bit of groping. It's like serious sexual assault.
And, I think if you've listened to other episodes that we've done, way back at the beginning, you'll have heard us talk about like the big game changers that are facing our teenagers at the minute. And, game changer number 3 we talked about was porn and taking that off the top shelf, and how much more violent porn is than it was 20 years ago, maybe when we used to laugh if we found a magazine under our brother's bed. That was quite mild in consideration.
They had pubes as well.
They did.
My God, it was amazing.
But I think because of that, boys are engaging in porn a lot younger. It's more accessible. It's a lot more violent. That's what's making some of this accelerate.
It's also more misogynistic. So porn in the old days, it was man woman. It was like
kisses.
It was a plumber arriving, wasn't it? And then it was a bit of Now it's like driven by misogynistic totes.
Yeah,
and that's very, very different. Yeah, very different. So as we always do at the end of these rants, and these kind of like, because once you know these things, you can't unknow them.
No,
you can't unknow them. We talk about solutions, don't we?
Well, there's one thing I think that massively led us into some of these solutions. And I think, we were talking about kind of like, well, who is the system run by? And we first started to look at the system as biased. And you know, when we kind of pinpoint is that this whole system, the justice system, like other systems we've talked about, have all been created and built by that white middle class, you know, male privileged man.
Yeah.
And so it was built by them. It's still run by them.
Yeah.
And whilst that continues to be the case, we've got, you know, this isn't going to go away.
No.
Not only that is the system protects those. So if they are any of the perpetrators of these crimes, then that's why, you know, if you've only got the risk of 1 in 10,000 rapes turning into a prosecution, you know what? If you were of that way, you'd have a stab at that, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah, and you push it.
The risk is small.
You know, and you'd be thinking about the
this.
woman. I'll get away with this. You know, it's you versus me, sunshine.
Yeah, it's your word against mine.
And the law's on my side.
And look how credible I look to this institution.
You know,
I look credible.
So we knock yourself out if you want to have a go, love, but you've got no chance.
And then when we talked about some of the cases that did get to court, when they're white privileged men, it's like, but, you know, he's got this big career and he's the breadwinner and his wife and his kids will, you know, depend on him.
Yeah, they're going to starve.
Yeah.
They're going to starve. Or there was a lot of cases a couple of years ago of university students that have been involved in gang rapes over Freshers' Week.
Yeah.
And the judges let them all off because it's like, you know, they're very bright.
Yeah.
These are the future leaders.
Potential.
These are the future leaders of our institutions.
Yeah, if they have a criminal record like this now, it'll ruin their career forever.
Don't worry about her career.
Or her mental health.
Yeah, so, you know, we can't really prosecute.
No. So, you know, I think that needs to feed into the solution massively.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, there's a few things in here for us to talk about. Number one, you know what? It's about us coming together. It's the sisterhood thing again. And what we mean by that is, you know, together we are stronger. So, you know, it's about, it might not happen to you. Okay, but it might happen to somebody that you know. And that person, that woman that you know, might be one of these 50% of women that doesn't feel able to speak up. So just because it didn't happen to you doesn't mean that you shouldn't speak up, that you shouldn't advocate for it, that you shouldn't report it.
Yeah.
You know, don't walk past things. You know, do it because it's the right thing to do.
Even if you're in a meeting, you know, even if you're in a meeting and a you know, a man behaves badly or says something that he really shouldn't say, or, you know, like sometimes it's difficult for that woman it's directed at. But if there's another 15 women in the room, what are the 15 women in the room doing?
Yeah.
You know, surely the 15 women in the room should be going, whoa, hang on a minute. That's inappropriate.
Yeah, we're not all right with that.
No, can you just step back from that?
Yeah.
You know,
and there's another bit to go with that, but I want to save that for the last little one.
Okay.
The second thing is actually, you know, we've probably in there, you know, we've labeled a lot of the police as being part of the problem here, but we know firsthand because we've got relationships with them that there are many police women and policemen that don't think like that. That
are desperate to change the system.
You know, that are up in arms day in, day out, fighting for this. And you know, hats off to them, and we need to keep helping them to do that.
We need to support them because they're in a minority and they need us.
Yeah, because
to be their
otherwise they will also get silenced within that culture.
Absolutely.
You know, something popped in my head while we were talking about women not being able, and this is not to make it a woman's responsibility. However, you know, where there are things that we can do to help ourselves, then let's do it.
Yeah.
You know, so sometimes it might be about doing the work and the development to become skilled in raising things that feel a challenge or dealing with conflict or being able to have a difficult conversation. The more we can develop our capability and confidence around that, the more easy we would find it. So I'm not saying it would solve every case.
No.
But it might nudge that percentage down a little bit more, so less than half. But the big one is this. And it's to say that we know that not all men are like that. We know there are amazing, brilliant, wonderful, fabulous, good men out there who are, or who can be,
who are feminists, who
can be our allies, who can stand up for this. So it's not just for women to have the sisterhood. It's about if you are a good man, or if you know a good man, because I live with one.
Yeah, we've both married one, haven't we? So not the same one.
No, but we bagged ourselves one each.
We bagged a good one. We bagged a good one.
And actually, it's about them also speaking up. If they're sat in a meeting and they see another man behaving badly towards a woman, that they would speak up and do that. Actually, that for me feels one of the most powerful things that could be done in all this.
Yeah, that they advocate for us.
Yeah, because I know what it's like. There'll be men that will say, hang on a minute, you're tarnishing all of us men with the same brush. I'm not like them. And that's right, you're not. But it's not enough to just say, I'm not like them.
Yeah.
It needs you to speak up with us.
Cool.
So on that note,
there
you go.
Well, another one bites the dust.
The justice system is biased.
The justice system is broken and biased.
Yeah. Get out there, form that sisterhood, speak up, don't walk past things. And if you know a good man, get him on the team. We'll see you next time.
You have been listening to Jane and Jodes on One. Until next time, remember, sisterhood matters. Together, we are bold, brave, fierce, and unstoppable.